The Grand Council chamber of Thesara Prime stretched higher than most buildings, its walls carved from dark stone that had witnessed 3,000 years of Valorian rule. Today, the chamber buzzed with anticipation as military officials and government leaders gathered to discuss the future of their empire. High Chancellor Vexthor stood at the center platform, his scales gleaming under the artificial lights as he addressed the assembled crowd. "The frontier sectors remain unclaimed," Vexthor declared, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "Our scouts report minimal military presence and scattered settlements. The resources there could fuel our expansion for the next century." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the council members. Fleet Marshal Dexron stepped forward, his military decorations catching the light. "The inhabitants are humans," he said with obvious disdain, "a young species barely unified with limited military capability. They pose no threat to Valorian superiority." At the back of the chamber, elder historian Kelmassa rose slowly from her seat. Her age showed in the faded color of her scales and the deliberate way she moved, but her voice remained strong. "I must speak against this course of action." The chamber fell silent. Kelmassa rarely attended council sessions anymore, preferring the quiet of the historical archives to the noise of politics. Her presence alone commanded attention. "Speak, Elder," Vexthor said, gesturing for her to approach the central platform. Kelmassa walked forward, carrying an ancient data tablet. 4,000 years ago, our ancestors encountered humans for the first time. The records of that meeting still exist in our archives. I have brought them today." She activated the tablet, and holographic text appeared in the air above the platform. The writing style was old, almost archaic, but readable. "This is the account of Commander Zelvox, who led the first Valorian expedition to make contact with human explorers." The text floated in the air as Kelmassa read aloud. "We met them in the neutral zone between our territories. They seemed weak, their ships primitive by our standards. When a dispute arose over mining rights to an asteroid field, we fired upon one of their vessels. It was a minor engagement, barely worth recording. We expected them to retreat." Kelmassa paused, letting the silence build. "But they did not retreat." Commander Zelvox continues. "They returned with 20 ships for every one we destroyed. They fought with a fury we had never witnessed. They sacrificed their own vessels to destroy ours. When we sued for peace, they demanded not just reparations, but public acknowledgement of wrongdoing and a treaty that heavily favored their interests. We had no choice but to accept." Fleet Marshal Dexron laughed, breaking the tension. "A single ancient encounter, from an era when our weapons were far less advanced. Surely you do not suggest we fear them based on events from 4 millennia ago." "The report continues," Kelmassa said firmly. "Commander Zelvox wrote a warning that has been passed down through generations of historians. His final entry states, 'Never strike at humans unless you are prepared to fight to the last ship.' They are a sleeping giant who remembers every wound. They do not forgive easily, and they do not forget at all." More laughter echoed through the chamber, though some of the older council members looked uncomfortable. High Chancellor Vexthor raised his hand for silence. "Elder Kelmassa, we respect your dedication to history, but times have changed. We are the dominant military power in this sector. Our technology far exceeds that of human colonies. Your ancient warnings, while interesting, are no longer relevant. History always repeats itself for those who refuse to learn from it," Kelmassa said quietly. "I am not asking you to fear humans. I am asking you to respect them. Leave their colonies alone. Pursue expansion in other directions. The resources in the frontier sectors are not worth the risk." Vexthor's expression hardened. "There is no risk. The matter is settled. We will claim the frontier sectors within the next solar cycle." Kelmassa gathered her tablet and walked back to her seat, Her shoulders slumped in defeat. As she passed, her student scholar Tiernell joined her. "They will not listen," he whispered. "No," Kelmassa agreed. "They will not. And that is what frightens me most." Light years away, Commander Daniel Hayes stood in the observation deck of Redwood Station, watching the stars through the large viewport. The station floated in orbit around a green planet that human colonists had transformed over the past 20 years. Below, farms stretched across fertile valleys, and small cities dotted the landscape. It was peaceful, quiet, and far from the political tensions of Earth. "Beautiful night," Lisa Martinez said, joining him at the viewport. As the station's civilian administrator, she spent most of her time managing the needs of 3,000 colonists. "Though I suppose it's always night up here." Daniel smiled. "True enough. How are the schools doing?" "Wonderful," Lisa said, her face brightening. "We have 240 children enrolled now. The new learning center just opened last week. You should see it, Daniel. The kids are so excited about the science labs." "I'll visit tomorrow," Daniel promised. "I like seeing them happy. It reminds me why we're out here." Lisa's expression grew more serious. "Speaking of why we're out here, I heard your patrol ships detected some unusual activity at the edge of our sector." Daniel nodded, his smile fading. "Valorian scout ships. They've been increasing their patrols for the past month. Earth Command is monitoring the situation, but they say it's probably routine." "Do you believe that?" "I want to," Daniel admitted. "But I've been running evacuation drills with my security teams just in case." Lisa looked down at the planet below, where lights twinkled in the growing darkness. "These people came here for a fresh start. Most of them left Earth to escape conflicts and political problems. They wanted peace." "I know," Daniel said softly. "And we'll do everything we can to protect that peace." Back on Thesera Prime, Elder Kelmassa sat in her private chambers, surrounded by centuries of historical records. Scholar Tiernell brought her a warm drink, noting the sad expression on her face. "You did what you could," he said gently. "You presented the evidence. The choice is theirs now." "That is what worries me," Kelmassa replied. "They think military strength makes them invincible. They do not understand that some species are most dangerous when they appear weakest. Humans are protective of their own. If the Council orders an attack on those frontier colonies, they will be targeting civilians." FAM 3, weeks after the Council meeting, Scholar Tiernell stood before the Valorian Grand Council once again. This time, Elder Kelmassa sat in the back of the chamber, too weary to present the evidence herself. She had given her student everything he needed, every record she could find about human behavior patterns and historical conflicts. "Honored Council members," Tiernell began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. "I have spent the past month studying human military history. What I have found should concern us all." He activated a series of holographic displays showing various human conflicts from their past. Humans have fought thousands of wars among themselves. What makes their behavior unique is not their aggression, but their response to specific types of attacks. Fleet Marshal Dexron looked bored. "Get to the point, Scholar. We have military preparations to oversee." Tiernell continued, refusing to be intimidated. "In every recorded instance where human civilian populations were deliberately targeted, especially when children were harmed, the human response escalated dramatically. They do not simply defend. They retaliate with overwhelming force. More importantly, they never forget such attacks. Their grudges can last for generations." High Chancellor Vexthor leaned forward. "You speak of primitive conflicts between human factions. We are not humans fighting other humans. We are Valorians, superior in technology and military discipline." "That superiority may not matter," Tiernell said quietly. "In their most recent major conflict, humans developed weapons they hoped never to use. Their capacity for destruction, when properly motivated, rivals any species in the known galaxy. They simply choose not to employ these weapons unless absolutely necessary. Choose not to? Dexron laughed. Or lack the courage to use them? Neither, Turnell replied. They have strict ethical guidelines about military force. They prefer peaceful solutions. But when those guidelines are violated, when their civilians are attacked, those ethics transform into something else entirely. They become focused, unified, and relentless. An older council member spoke up. Even if what you say is true, we have 3 times their military strength in this sector. Our ships are faster, and our weapons more accurate. Tyrnell displayed another hologram, this one showing economic data. Human industrial capacity is remarkable. When they mobilized for their last major war, they converted civilian manufacturing to military production in a matter of weeks. Their entire economy shifted. If they perceive a genuine threat, they can field a fleet far larger than our intelligence estimates suggest. Enough, Vexthor declared. Your research is noted, scholar. But the decision has been made. We will proceed with our expansion plans. The human colonies in the frontier sectors will be given a choice. Accept Valorian governance or face the consequences. Turnell gathered his materials, his hearts heavy with dread. As he left the chamber, he met Elder Kelmassa in the corridor. They will not listen, he said. I know, she replied. Now we can only watch and hope we are wrong. On the neutral station, Haven's Gate, Earth diplomat Gregory Foster sat across from Valorian negotiator Kexaville. The station served as a meeting ground for various species, a place where conflicts could be resolved through words instead of weapons. Today, those words were failing. Ambassador Kexaville, Gregory said carefully, Earth is willing to offer significant concessions. We can establish shared governance of the disputed sectors. Our mining operations can provide resources to both our peoples. We can even discuss technology exchanges that would benefit Valorian industries. Kexville's expression remained cold. Your offers are generous, but unnecessary. The Valorian Empire does not negotiate with species we consider beneath us. Your colonies will submit to our authority, or they will be removed. Gregory kept his composure, though anger simmered beneath his calm exterior. Removed? You're talking about civilian populations, families. We have children living on those colonies. Then evacuate them, Kexaville said dismissively. You have 1 month to withdraw from the frontier sectors. After that, we will claim those territories by force if necessary. If you attack our colonies, Gregory said slowly, you will regret it. I promise you that. Kexaville stood to leave. Threats from humans do not concern us. This meeting is concluded. Gregory immediately sent an encrypted message to Earth Command. Admiral Patrick Sullivan received it within the hour and called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. Captain Nicole Bennett was among those summoned to headquarters. The Valorians are serious, Sullivan told his officers. They've given us a deadline. 1 month to evacuate the frontier colonies or face military action. Nicole had been afraid of this. As the commanding officer of the defense frigate Guardian's Watch, she had been monitoring Valorian fleet movements for weeks. Sir, their ships are already positioning themselves around our sector. This isn't a bluff. I know, Sullivan replied grimly. I'm ordering Guardian's Watch and 3 other frigates to Redwood Station. It's our largest colony and most likely target. If they're going to make a move, it will be there. We'll be outgunned, Nicole pointed out. 4 frigates against their battle group? We can defend for a while, but not indefinitely. I'm aware of the odds, Sullivan said. But we can't abandon our people. We'll send what reinforcements we can, and I'm requesting that Earth authorize deployment of our reserve fleets. It will take time to mobilize them, though. How much time? 3 weeks minimum, maybe 4. Nicole felt a chill run down her spine. The Valorian deadline was 1 month. If they attacked early, the colonists would be vulnerable. I'll position my ship for best defensive coverage, she said. My pilots will be ready. One of her best pilots, Lieutenant Amanda Carter, was already running combat drills when Nicole returned to Guardian's watch. The young lieutenant pushed her fighter through tight maneuvers, preparing for scenarios she hoped would never come. On Redwood Station, Daniel Hayes watched the arrival of Guardian's watch and the other defense frigates with mixed feelings. Part of him was relieved to have military support. Part of him worried that the ship's presence would make the Valorians more aggressive. Lisa Martinez shared his concerns. The colonists are scared, she told him during their daily meeting. They see warships gathering and they know something is wrong. Some families are talking about leaving. Maybe they should, Daniel said reluctantly. If there's going to be fighting, they'd be safer elsewhere. This is their home, Lisa replied. They built farms, businesses, schools. They have lives here. We can't just abandon everything because of threats. I know, Daniel said, but I'd rather see them alive somewhere else than dead here. Lisa looked out at the planet below. I'll organize emergency evacuation plans, but I won't force anyone to leave. They have the right to stay and defend their home. That evening, Daniel walked through the station's residential section. He passed the new learning center where children attended classes. Through the windows, he could see kids working on science projects, laughing with their friends, living normal lives. He thought about what Scholar Tiernell had told the Valorian Council, about how humans responded when their children were threatened. He hoped it would never come to that. Back on Thessera Prime, Elder Kelmassa made one final attempt to prevent disaster. She requested a private audience with High Chancellor Vexthor, using connections from her long years of service to the Empire. He granted her 10 minutes. Chancellor, she began, I have served this empire for 70 years. I have never asked for personal favors or used my position for political gain. But today, I am begging you, do not attack the human colonies. Vexthor looked at her with something resembling pity. Your concern is noted, Elder, but I cannot let ancient superstitions guide modern policy. This is not superstition, Kelmassa insisted. It is pattern recognition. Humans are different from other species. They bond deeply with their families and communities. They see all their children as belonging to all their people. If you harm their young ones, they will unite in ways you cannot imagine. We do not intend to harm civilians, Vexthor said. Our military will target only defensive installations. The colonists will be given opportunities to surrender. And if something goes wrong? Kelmassa pressed. If there is a mistake? An accident? What the attack came 3 weeks into the deadline, catching everyone by surprise. Valorian High Command had decided that an early strike would demonstrate their resolve and catch the human defenses unprepared. They were right about the timing, but wrong about everything else. Commander Daniel Hayes was reviewing supply reports when the station's alarm system screamed to life. Red lights flashed throughout the corridors as his combat board lit up with incoming hostile contacts. 12 Valorian warships had just emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. All hands to battle stations, Daniel ordered over the station-wide communication system. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. Begin emergency evacuation procedures. On Guardian's watch, Captain Nicole Bennett was already moving. Her frigate and the 3 others positioned around Redwood Station powered up weapons and moved to intercept the Valorian fleet. She knew the odds were terrible, but her orders were clear. Protect the colony at all costs. Launch all fighters, Nicole commanded. Give those people time to evacuate. Lieutenant Amanda Carter was among the first pilots to launch. Her fighters screamed away from Guardian's watch, joining 30 others in a desperate defense formation. The Valorian ships were bigger, faster, and more heavily armed, but the human pilots had something else. They were protecting their home. The space battle began with a fury that shocked the Valorian commanders. Human fighters swarmed their ships, sacrificing themselves to create openings for the frigates to exploit. Guardian's Watch positioned itself directly between the largest Valorian cruiser and the station, absorbing hits that would have destroyed the civilian habitat. On Redwood Station, Lisa Martinez ran through the corridors toward the Learning Center. She needed to make sure all the children were evacuated first. The halls were chaos as people grabbed what they could and rushed toward the evacuation shuttles. Parents screamed for their kids. Alarms blared. Fear filled every face. Lisa burst into the Learning Center to find teachers already organizing the children. "Everyone to the shuttles," she called out. "Stay calm. Stay together. We practiced this." A little girl no more than 6 years old tugged on Lisa's sleeve. "Where's my daddy?" she asked, tears streaming down her face. "We'll find him," Lisa promised, though she had no idea if she could keep that promise. "But right now, we need to get you safe." In space, the battle was going badly for the humans. 2 of the 4 frigates had already been destroyed. Guardian's Watch was heavily damaged, but still fighting. Amanda Carter's fighter squadron had been reduced to 12 ships from 30. They were buying time, but not much. On the Valorian command ship, Fleet Marshal Dexron watched the battle with satisfaction. The humans were fighting harder than expected, but the outcome was inevitable. "Target their station's military installations," he ordered. "Destroy their command center and weapons platforms. Avoid civilian sections." The weapons officer began programming the attack coordinates. Each target was carefully selected based on intelligence reports about the station's layout. But those reports were 6 months old, and things had changed. The new learning center, built just 4 weeks ago, sat exactly where the old command bunker used to be. The intelligence maps still showed the command bunker. The weapons computer locked onto those coordinates. Daniel Hayes saw the incoming missiles on his display. He had seconds to react. "Divert all power to shields over the residential section," he ordered. But there was not enough power, not enough time. On the planet below, Jason Price was loading his family into a transport when the explosions began. He looked up at the sky, at the station orbiting overhead. His daughter was up there, in the learning center. His wife worked there as a teacher. He watched in horror as fire bloomed against the station's hull. The missile struck with terrible precision, exactly where the Valorian targeting system indicated the command bunker should be. But it was not a command bunker anymore. It was a school filled with 240 children. The explosion tore through the learning center in an instant. Teachers, students, educational equipment, everything vaporized in a flash of superheated plasma. The section decompressed, and what the explosion did not destroy, the vacuum of space claimed. Lisa Martinez was 3 corridors away when it happened. The blast wave threw her against a wall. When she stood up, emergency bulkheads had sealed off the learning center section. She ran toward it, screaming, but the bulkheads would not open. They could not open. There was nothing but vacuum on the other side. Medical Officer Kevin Ross rushed to the emergency ward as wounded colonists began arriving. Burns, broken bones, decompression injuries. He worked frantically, but then the reports started coming in about the learning center. His hands froze as he understood what had happened. 240 children, gone. Just gone. In space, Amanda Carter saw the explosion and knew immediately what had been hit. Her best friend's daughter went to that school. She had visited there last week, reading stories to the kids about brave pilots and adventure. Now, those children were dead. Something changed in Amanda at that moment. She stopped trying to survive. She only cared about killing as many Valorian ships as she could before she died. She dove her fighter directly at the Valorian flagship, her weapons firing continuously. Her ship was destroyed, but not before she managed to damage the flagship's engine systems. Captain Nicole Bennett watched her pilots dying one by one. Guardian's watch was falling apart around her, hull breaches on every deck, life support failing. But she had one thing left to do. She activated the ship's communication system and began recording everything: the battle, the attack, the destroyed learning center. She sent it all in a compressed data burst directly to Earth Command. "For the record," Nicole said into the recording, her voice steady despite her tears, "the Valorians targeted a school. They killed our children. 240 young lives ended because of a targeting error or deliberate cruelty, I do not know which. But Earth needs to know. Everyone needs to know what they did." The message was sent seconds before a Valorian missile tore through Guardian's watch. The ship broke apart, and Nicole Bennett died still at her post. On Redwood Station, Daniel Hayes coordinated the evacuation of survivors, though his heart was breaking. More than half the colonists had made it to shuttles and escaped to the planet. But 240 children would never come home. Lisa Martinez found a working communication terminal and began broadcasting to every human channel she could reach. Her face appeared on screens across Earth and every human colony. Behind her, the station burned. Bodies floated past the viewport. She was crying, but her voice was clear. "They came for our children," she said. "The Valorians attacked Redwood Station. They destroyed our school. Our babies are dead. 240 children who will never grow up, never laugh again, never dream of the future." She held up a picture of her own daughter taken just that morning. "This was Emma. She was 7 years old. She loved science and wanted to be a doctor. She is gone now, along with all her classmates and teachers." Lisa looked directly into the camera. "Earth, remember us. Remember what they did. Remember our children. They deserve justice. They deserve to be avenged." The broadcast ended, but the message spread like wildfire across human space. Within hours, every human alive knew what had happened at Redwood Station. The images of the destroyed learning center, the casualty lists with names and ages of the children, the recording from Guardian's watch showing the attack. The response from humanity was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Within 6 hours of Lisa Martinez's broadcast, every human nation on Earth declared a state of total war. Political differences that had divided humans for decades vanished overnight. Ancient rivals became instant allies. Every colony, every station, every human settlement in space sent the same message. "We are one people now." The Galactic Council called an emergency session, hoping to mediate before the situation spiraled further out of control. Their representative, Ambassador Krell of the Centaurian League, opened a communication channel to Earth. Admiral Patrick Sullivan took the call, but his face was stone. "Admiral," Krell began carefully, "the Council understands your anger. What happened at Redwood Station was a tragedy, but we must pursue diplomatic solutions before resorting to full-scale war." "Diplomatic solutions?" Sullivan's voice was ice-cold. "They killed our children. They targeted a school. There is nothing to negotiate." "The Valorians claim it was a targeting error," Krell said. "They have offered to pay reparations and remove their forces from the disputed sectors." "Reparations?" Sullivan leaned forward, and even through the holographic display, his fury was palpable. "What price do they put on a child's life? How much money makes up for 240 futures that will never happen? How many credits equal a mother's grief?" Krell tried again. "The Council asks for restraint. If humanity goes to war, countless more will die on both sides." "Then the Valorians should have thought of that before they attacked," Sullivan replied. "Tell your Council this. Humanity tried diplomacy. We offered trade, cooperation, mutual defense. We were rejected. We were given an ultimatum. And when we did nothing but defend ourselves, they killed our children. The time for restraint ended the moment that school exploded." The communication ended. Krell reported back to the Galactic Council that negotiation had failed. Other species began pulling their ships away from human space, unwilling to be caught in the coming storm. On Earth, Senator Lauren Phillips stood before the World Assembly. Every nation's representative was present. "I am authorizing the activation of all classified defense systems," she announced. "Projects that were kept secret for decades, weapons we hoped never to use, technologies we developed but locked away. All of it is now available to our military forces." Dr. Benjamin Cole watched the announcement from his laboratory. He had been the lead scientist on several of those classified projects, and he had opposed their very existence for years. He believed weapons of such power should never be built. But now, looking at the pictures of those dead children, he picked up his communication device and called Fleet Admiral Sullivan. "Admiral," Cole said, "this is Dr. Cole from the Advanced Weapons Research Division. I am volunteering to activate the systems I helped design. Project Scorched Earth, Project Total Recall, all of them." "Doctor," Sullivan replied, surprised, "I know your stance on these weapons. You do not have to do this." "Yes, I do," Cole said quietly. "Those children did not deserve what happened to them. If these weapons can prevent it from ever happening again, then they need to exist. And I need to be the one who uses them, because I understand their full destructive potential." Across Earth, shipyards that had been idle roared back to life. Reserve fleets that had been mothballed for years were pulled from storage and updated with current technology. Civilian ships were converted to military use in a matter of days. The industrial might of humanity, usually directed toward peaceful purposes, now focused on a single goal: war. Fleet Admiral Christine Walker received her orders personally from Admiral Sullivan. She was to command the response fleet, 12 battle groups representing the largest military force humanity had ever assembled. When she saw the fleet composition, even she was shocked. "This is everything we have," she said to Sullivan during their briefing. "You are giving me every available ship." "Not quite," Sullivan replied. "We are keeping minimal defenses around Earth and our major colonies. But yes, you are getting the bulk of our military. Because this is not just about revenge. This is about sending a message to every species in the galaxy. Do not touch human civilians. Especially do not touch our children." Walker studied the tactical displays. "The Valorian fleet outnumbers us 3-1 in their home sector." "Numbers do not tell the whole story," Sullivan said. "Our people are motivated in ways the Valorians cannot understand. Every pilot, every soldier, every ship captain knows what happened at Redwood Station. They are not fighting for territory or resources. They are fighting for those children who will never come home." The human fleet began assembling at a staging point just outside Valorian territory. Ship after ship arrived, each one bearing the names of the dead children on their hulls. The flagship itself was renamed the Emma's Justice, after Lisa Martinez's daughter. When the Valorian scouts reported the fleet size to their command, panic began to spread through their military leadership. Fleet Marshal Dexron stood before High Chancellor Vexthor, trying to explain what their intelligence was reporting. "They have mobilized forces we did not know existed. Our estimates of human military capability were wrong, drastically wrong." "How wrong?" Vexthor demanded. "They have weapon systems that do not appear in any galactic database. Their ships are moving in formation patterns that suggest some kind of linked combat coordination. And our psychological analysts are reporting something they call unified grief response." "Explain that term," Vexthor ordered. "Humans apparently form emotional bonds not just within families but across their entire species. When those children died, every human felt the loss personally. Their entire race is acting as a single organism now, driven by collective rage and grief." Vexthor felt fear for the first time in his long career. "Can we negotiate?" "They have ignored every attempt at contact," Dexron said. "The human diplomat Gregory Foster sent one message. You were warned. You killed our children. There will be no negotiations." On Thessara Prime, Scholar Tiernell found Elder Kelmassa in the archives. She was adding new entries to the historical records, documenting everything that was happening. "Elder," he said, "the people are afraid. They see the human fleet gathering. They know what is coming." "As well they should be," Kelmassa replied. "I tried to warn them. You tried to warn them. But the council believed in their own superiority. Now they will learn what our ancestors learned 4,000 years ago. Humans do not forgive attacks on their families. Is there nothing we can do?" "We can bear witness," Kelmassa said sadly. "We can record what happens, so that future generations might learn from our mistakes. That is all historians can ever do when the powerful refuse to listen to history." The human fleet completed its assembly. 12 battle groups, 400 warships in total, along with countless support vessels and supply ships. Fleet Admiral Christine Walker stood on the bridge of the Emma's Justice, looking at the tactical display that showed every ship under her command. Each ship's captain had recorded a message, broadcast across the fleet network. They spoke about justice, about protection, about making sure no other human colony would suffer what Redwood Station had endured. They spoke about the children, reading their names aloud, keeping their memory alive. Walker opened a fleet-wide channel. "This is Fleet Admiral Walker to all ships. In 1 hour, we jump to Valorian space. Our mission is clear. Eliminate the Valorian Empire's ability to threaten human civilians. We will destroy their military infrastructure completely. We will show them the price of harming our people." She paused, thinking about those dead children. "But we are not monsters. We do not target civilians. We do not make the mistakes they made. We fight with honor, even when our enemies do not. We are humanity's wrath, but we are also humanity's conscience. When this is over, let it be said that we fought justly, even in our rage." The fleet acknowledged her orders. 1 hour later, they jumped to faster-than-light travel, heading directly for Thesara Prime. The journey would take 3 days. In that time, the Valorian Empire prepared its defenses, but fear had already infected their ranks. They had dismissed ancient warnings. They had ignored the wisdom of the human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, surrounding Thesara Prime like a closing fist. 400 warships appeared simultaneously, their weapons already powered and targeting systems locked onto every Valorian military installation in the system. The precision of their arrival shocked the Valorian defenders. This was not a random attack formation. This was calculated, planned, and executed with cold efficiency. Fleet Admiral Christine Walker stood on the bridge of the Emma's Justice and opened a broadcast channel that every ship in the system could hear, both human and Valorian. Her voice was steady, without anger or hatred, just absolute certainty. "This is Fleet Admiral Christine Walker of Earth Defense Forces. To the Valorian Empire and all who stand with them. You attacked our colony. You killed our children. You were warned this would happen. For Redwood Station. For the 240 who will never see another sunrise. No mercy." The battle began immediately. The Valorian defense fleet had positioned itself between the human ships and the planet, hoping their numerical advantage and defensive positions would give them an edge. They were wrong about everything. Human ships moved with a coordination that seemed impossible. Fighter squadrons weaved through Valorian formations with perfect timing, as if they could read each other's minds. Capital ships concentrated fire on individual targets, overwhelming shields and armor before moving to the next. The humans were not just fighting together. They were fighting as one. On Thesara Prime, young Valorian soldier Telvin watched the battle from his post at a ground defense station. He had been trained to believe in Valorian superiority, in the weakness of other species. Now he watched human fighters dive directly into defensive fire, sacrificing themselves to create openings for their larger ships. He watched human destroyers ram Valorian cruisers when their weapons were depleted. He watched tactics that prioritized mission success over survival. "They fight like we killed their entire species," Telvin whispered to his squad mate. But we only struck one colony. Why do they care so much? His squad leader, an older veteran, answered quietly. Because apparently every human child belongs to all humans. We touched one. They think we touched all of them. In space, the Valorian flagship tried to organize a defensive formation, but human ships were everywhere at once. Admiral Patrick Sullivan personally led a strike force that targeted the Valorian Military Command Center. His ship, the Guardian's Memory, was named after Nicole Bennett's destroyed frigate. He flew it with the precision of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The Valorian Command Center exploded in a fireball that could be seen from the planet's surface. With it went the coordination of the entire defense fleet. Valorian ships began fighting as individuals rather than as a unified force, and that made them easy targets. Among the human pilots, Lieutenant Amanda Carter's sister flew a fighter bearing Amanda's name on its hull. She had joined the fleet specifically to honor her sister's sacrifice at Redwood Station. Now she led an attack run that crippled the Valorian flagship's engine systems, the same flagship that had fired on the Learning Center. "That was for you, sis," she whispered as the Valorian ship went dead in space. "And for all those kids you read stories to." On the planet below, Elder Kelmassa and Scholar Tiernell stood in the archives tower, watching the battle through the viewing port. The city around them was in chaos as people fled to shelters. But Kelmassa felt no surprise, only sadness. "I must show them," she said to Tiernell. "Our people need to understand why this is happening." Together, they accessed the planetary broadcast system. Every screen in every home on Thessera Prime suddenly displayed Elder Kelmassa's face. Behind her, the ancient texts scrolled past. Commander Zelvox's warning from 4,000 years ago appeared in the old language, with translations running below. "People of Valoria," Kelmassa said, her voice carrying across the planet. "What you see now is not unprovoked aggression. It is the fulfillment of prophecy. Our ancestors encountered humanity once before. They learned a terrible lesson. They wrote it down so we would not repeat their mistake." She gestured to the scrolling text. "Never strike at humans unless you are prepared to fight to the last ship. They are a sleeping giant who remembers every wound. They do not forgive easily, and they do not forget at all. We were warned. The elders spoke, but our leaders did not listen." The broadcast showed footage from Redwood Station, the destroyed school, the bodies of children. The casualty list with names and ages. "We did this," Kelmassa said, tears streaming down her face. "We killed their young, and now they show us what it means to wake the giant." High Chancellor Vexthor tried to contact the human fleet. He offered surrender, reparations, anything to stop the assault. But his messages went unanswered. The humans were not interested in his surrender. Not yet. They had a mission to complete. Human forces systematically destroyed every Valorian military installation in the system. Shipyards exploded. Weapons platforms were reduced to debris. Military academies were left burning. But civilian areas remained untouched. Residential districts, hospitals, schools, all were carefully avoided. The humans demonstrated that they could distinguish between military and civilian targets, unlike the Valorians. After 6 hours of continuous combat, the Valorian military presence in their home system was effectively eliminated. Only then did Fleet Admiral Walker respond to Vexthor's surrender attempts. "This is Fleet Admiral Walker. We have destroyed your military capability in this system. You can no longer threaten human colonies or any other peaceful settlements. We could continue. We could reduce your cities to ash. But we will not. We are not you." She paused, letting that sink in. "Understand this, Chancellor. We did not come here for conquest. We came for justice. We came to ensure that no human child will ever again die because of Valorian arrogance. That mission is complete. We are withdrawing." The human fleet began moving away from Thessera Prime, leaving the planet intact but militarily broken. On the bridge of the Emma's Justice, Walker addressed her fleet one final time. "All ships, prepare for return to human space. We have shown them the price of harming our people. We have honored those who died at Redwood Station. But we will not become monsters to fight monsters. We are humanity. We protect. We remember. And when necessary, we fight. But we do not slaughter the defeated." Before leaving the system, Walker sent one final message to the Galactic Council. Gregory Foster, Earth's diplomat, delivered it in person at the council chambers. "Let this be known across the galaxy," Gregory said, his voice carrying to every species represented. "Humanity did not seek this war. We offered peace, cooperation, and mutual prosperity. We were rejected. We were threatened. And when we defended ourselves, our children were killed." He pulled up holographic images of the Redwood Station Memorial. 240 names, 240 futures ended. We did not start this conflict, but we finished it. We will not occupy Valorian worlds. We will not demand tribute or reparations. But make no mistake, we will remember. Gregory looked at each ambassador in turn. "Harm human civilians, especially our children, and humanity will come. We will remember. We will respond. And we will not stop until every threat is eliminated. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for war. Never forget the difference." On Thesara Prime, Elder Kelmassa added the final entry to her historical records. "The elders spoke of humanity's wrath. We did not listen. We attacked their colony. We killed their children. And they responded exactly as the prophecy foretold. They came with overwhelming force. They destroyed our military completely, but they spared our civilians. They showed us the mercy we did not show them." She wrote one final line. "We learned the hard way that some warnings are written in blood for a reason. May future generations remember this lesson. May they never repeat our mistake." Months later, on a rebuilt Redwood Station, a memorial stood where the Learning Center had been. 240 names were carved into dark stone, each one representing a life cut short. Lisa Martinez stood before it, placing flowers at the base. Her children were gone, but their names would never be forgotten. Daniel Hayes joined her at the memorial. Above them, human warships patrolled the sector, ensuring no threat would ever reach the colony again. "They are building new schools," he said quietly. "Life continues." "It does," Lisa agreed. "But we remember. We will always remember." Across the galaxy, other species looked at what happened to the Valorian Empire and learned. The humans had kept their word. They fought with devastating effectiveness but did not commit atrocities. They protected their own but did not seek to dominate others. They were exactly what Elder Kelmassa had warned about. A sleeping giant, peaceful until provoked, then unstoppable in their response. And in the quiet spaces between the stars, humanity's message echoed clearly. "We choose peace. But if you force us to war, we will show you why the elders spoke of our wrath. We will show you why you should have listened." Air elders. They had killed human children and expected no consequences. Now they would face the prophecy fulfilled. The sleeping giant was not just awake. It was coming for them, and nothing in their experience had prepared them for humanity's unified wrath. On the bridge of the Emma's Justice, a picture was mounted on the wall next to Walker's command chair. It showed 240 children smiling at the camera during a school assembly. Above the picture, someone had written in simple letters, "They deserved better. We fight for them." And across 400 human warships, that same sentiment echoed. The galaxy was about to learn what humans had known for millennia. You do not touch their children, not ever, because they will never stop, they will never forgive, and they will never forget. On Thesara Prime, Elder Kelmassa watched the reports coming in from human space. She saw the reactions, the rage, the grief transforming into something cold and terrible. She found Scholar Tiernell in the archives, both of them staring at the screens in horror. "It has begun," she whispered. "The elders spoke of humanity's wrath. Now we will see it firsthand." On Earth, Fleet Admiral Patrick Sullivan stood before the Military Command Council. Every flag officer in the Human Defense Forces was present, either in person or via holographic link. The room was silent as images of dead children played on the screens. "Gentlemen and ladies," Sullivan said quietly, "we are going to war. Not a limited engagement, not a defensive action. We are going to destroy the Valorian Empire's ability to wage war, completely and permanently." Nobody objected. Nobody suggested diplomacy or restraint. They had seen the pictures, they knew what had been done, and now the sleeping giant was waking up. "None? Then we will deal with the consequences," Vexthor replied. "But I will not let fear of hypothetical scenarios prevent us from expanding our empire. The frontier sectors will be ours." Kelmassa left the Chancellor's office knowing she had failed. She returned to the archives and added a new entry to her personal records. "I have done everything in my power to prevent this tragedy. The elders spoke of humanity's wrath. I have repeated their warnings, but no one listens. History will judge us harshly for what comes next." On Redwood Station, Lisa Martinez tucked her own children into bed that night, reading them stories about heroes and adventures. She kissed them goodnight and tried not to think about the warships gathering at the edge of their sector. Outside, stars glittered peacefully, giving no hint of the storm about to break. In the Valorian fleet, orders were being prepared, targets were being selected, weapons were being armed. The countdown had begun, though the humans did not yet know it. And in the void between the stars, the future hung in terrible balance. Illies, children. "Surely the military would avoid civilian casualties," Tiernell suggested. Kelmassa shook her head. "In war, accidents happen. Mistakes are made. And when those mistakes involve human civilians, especially their young ones, the ancient warnings will prove true. The sleeping giant will wake, and our people will pay a terrible price for the arrogance of this council." She looked at the ancient tablet, at the words Commander Zelvox had written so long ago. "They spoke of humanity's wrath," she whispered. "But no one listened. No one ever listens until it is too late." On Redwood Station, Daniel Hayes filed his evening report to Earth Command, noting the increased Valorian activity, but recommending no immediate action. Below him, on the planet's surface, children played in parks under the watchful eyes of their parents. Farmers tended their crops, teachers prepared lessons for the next day. Life continued in its peaceful rhythm, unaware that in a distant council chamber, decisions were being made that would shatter that peace forever. The stars shone indifferently over both worlds, offering no warnings of the storm that was about to break.